Hey everyone, Dale here, welcome to the channel. Today I'm comparing the 2025 Toyota Camry SE versus XLE. Now if you don't have time to watch this video, I have a free website below called checkyourspec.com where it'll tell you what your car options and specification are worth. Check Your Spec is a free platform that lets you choose from thousands of options, trims and features, even down to the paint and option codes, and tells you exactly what your car is worth. See how each option affects the current value of your car now and in the future at checkyourspec.com. Okay, so let's get started. So on the left there we've got the SE, and on the right there we've got the XLE, both front wheel drive, both have the same engine, etc, etc. We're not looking at the XSE on the far right, that'll come in a later video, so please like and subscribe if you want to see that video. Basically I'm going to advise and inform and let you understand why things are priced the way they're priced. And I'm going to value the spec, the individual standard equipment differences between the SE and the XLE. I'll tell you from a valuation perspective, which was my old role, why we price things the way we price them, and you'll understand by the end of this video whether it's worth spending $2,700 to go from an SE to an XLE, or just stick with the SE. Valuations on the right hand side there, you can see, are based on a 3-year 60,000 mile finance profile, which is a typical finance agreement, and again, no options are going to be priced in this video. We're doing it as it comes off of the production line, standard spec only. If you get a standard SE and a standard XLE, no options, no nothing, just as it rolls off the production line. So first thing you're going to do is decide whether you want to spend $31,000 or spend an extra $2,700 to go up to the XLE model. And I'm going to run down the spec and we'll find out what things are worth in 3 years time, in my opinion. So first up we've got the bi-LED projectors, low and high beam headlights versus the dual LED projector low and high beam headlights. Might potentially be a visual difference between these two, which is why there's a slight valuation change of $90. I would have to get the vehicles in side by side and value them that way. But right now I have to take it on the face of it, as Toyota's website shows me here, that there is a difference between the bi-LED and the dual LED. So I've added a little bit of extra value for that of $90. Why $90? Why not $150? Why not $300? We're always thinking to the future in terms of lighting technology, how this vehicle will progress through its life cycle from 1 year from now, 3 years from now. Is it going to look much different? Is the lighting technology going to improve a lot? What are rivals going to do? All that good stuff. So you add a little bit of value to say, yep, I recognize that as a change on the vehicle, but we're not going to add on what Toyota would hope would be hundreds and hundreds of dollars. We add a marginal amount, and in this case I've added $90. Next item down, LED combination taillights on the SE and premium LED combination taillights on the XLE. I've priced it as a 0 because again I would have to get the vehicle in to see it and do a full comparison to see if there's actually any benefit to upgrading to the XLE, but right now premium LEDs versus LEDs, LEDs are pretty premium, so I've just valued it as a 0 for now. We come down to our third item, which goes from the black sport mesh front grille on the SE to the dark metallic grey horizontal bar front grille on the XLE. I've done another 0 value on this. They look too similar in my opinion. Based on the images that I've seen, there would need to be a bit more of a significant upgrade or change or difference for it to have a significant value change. Again, I'd have to get them in side by side and look at them, but in this case it's going to be another 0 value. Let's go down to our next item, which is going from color keyed outside door handles to color keyed outside door handles with touch sensor lock / unlock feature. So obviously the main feature difference there is the touch sensor lock. And I've added value for that. It's a convenience option. It helps you get in and out of the car without having to fidget around in your pocket for keys, and it makes it nice and easy to get in and out of the vehicle, and that's worth something, and I think it's worth $175, and that'll probably be pretty consistent over the course of its life cycle. But I've added some value there because somebody may or may not buy the vehicle based on how easy it is to get into it. It is an option on the SE, but it's an option, so maybe you get the XLE because you want to be able to open your doors without having to get your key out. Next item, alloy wheels. And my previous video, people hated my opinion going between the 16 and 18 inch multi-spoke alloy wheels for the LE versus SE video that I did. Because of ride height and things like that. That's just not how the valuation world works. I understand the arguments that I was reading on Reddit when I posted this video, but from a valuation perspective, there was no value difference. And let me explain what I mean by no value difference between alloy wheels. Is if you go from a material change from a steel wheel to an alloy wheel, you will get a benefit. There will be a valuation difference between those different materials. If you go from 18-inch to another 18-inch, there's no value benefit. If you go from 18 to 19 inches, if it's a different style, anything like that, from a valuation perspective, we add zero value to that because it's really hard to track all the data points for how vehicles are sold and which color and which condition and which mileage, and then you've got to tally that up, put it all together into a format that then breaks down how those specific wheels were valued when they went through an auction hall or through a dealer, and you have to break out that individual piece of information. It's not worth the valuation companies doing that, so that's why they don't do it. I do that on my website, so please check it out. I don't value them as zero, but I'm looking at it from my old job perspective of how they value things and how it will be valued and interpreted when you take your vehicle into trade. Next up, we go from a single exhaust with dual chrome tips on the SE to a single exhaust. Basically, it's still a single exhaust no matter what the material changes here. So it's classed as zero. I've just put a circle around the panoramic glass roof with front power tilt moonroof on the XLE. It's just an option, and some people will buy the XLE just because you have the option, but I'm not valuing options in this video. Acoustic noise reduction, front windshield and front glass. No, you're not going to get any value for that Toyota, I'm afraid. Moving down, we have got the black rear sport lower diffuser on the SE and the gloss black rear lower diffuser on the XLE. As far as I can tell, the only difference there is one says black and one says gloss black. There's going to be no value difference or something like that. If it was a very different color or it was on a TRD spec or something like that, I'd probably take a bit more of an investigative look at it. But right now, I would just price it as zero. Come down again, black window trim on the SE, going to a chrome finish window trim on the XLE. I'm not a big fan of chrome. Doesn't really matter what I think about it. It still would be valued as a zero from a valuation perspective. Again, going from the black Camry lettering on the SE to the XLE, again it's a zero. And the racing inspired black air curtains and front side canards going to black front side air curtains. It is a visual change, but the XLE is a slightly different market. The SE is sportier. After a sportier buyer, the XLE is starting to lean into that luxury buyer a little bit more. So there's no value change for that because basically they don't want the sport canards on the front to say this is the sporty version. So you don't add or subtract any value for that because then you're punishing the buyer for something that they, as an overall package of a vehicle, they want to jump into a more luxury vehicle, if that makes sense. Color keyed rear spoiler on the SE, and you lose it for the XLE. Again, this leans into the luxury aspects. They don't want to be perceived, the XLE buyer, from what I can see on here, doesn't want to be perceived as a sporty vehicle buyer. They want to be lent into the luxury side of the buying. Come down to the next bit. On the SE, you have the optional smart key system on front doors and trunk with push button start, remote keyless entry system and remote illuminated entry. On the XLE, that is standard, and I've added it as $110. Smart key system on the front doors with trunk, push button, remote keyless entry system. It's kind of similar to what we saw above where you could put your hand in the handle and it will open the doors for you, but it's now giving you a bit more information. It does push button start and remote illuminated entry and a few other little trinkets. Little bit of value to recognize that, so $110. We come down to the heated front seats. These are optional on the SE and they are standard on the XLE. This is going to depend where you live, obviously. So you're going to pay more or less depending on where you live, or you're going to pay for it because you want to resell it or have the option to resell it to a wider market of people who want heated front seats. So I have to recognize that as something that's a value benefit, which is why I put it as $150 in 3 years' time. Now, I live in Texas. I don't think I've ever touched my heated front seats. I only touch the ventilated seats because it is so hot here all the time. So that's why it doesn't make much difference to me. But I can see if someone's living in Montana or Alaska or Pacific Northwest or wherever it's going to be, you're probably going to want heated front seats as standard. So that's why there's a value added difference there. Now we'll come down again. Now we go from the Softex fabric front seats with seatback pockets, 8-way power adjustment front driver's seat with power lumbar support, 6-way manual passenger front seats on the SE, to the leather and microfiber trimmed front seats, seatback pockets, 8-way power adjustment, and 8-way power adjustable passenger seat. So again, I got sort of flamed in the comments on Reddit for this because they couldn't really understand why I'd valued the interior differences on a particular vehicle. So their argument was that the soft seats are more comfortable. Why would you get leather? Yeah, it's more premium, but the soft seats are more comfortable. That's kind of what they lent into. Don't really look at it that way. Just because you prefer the cloth seats doesn't mean that everybody, prefers that. I prefer leather seats. I will pay a premium to have leather seats because I prefer leather seats. You might pay a premium because you like cloth seats, and that's your personal preference. However, from a valuation perspective and the data that they collect and get in, they will be able to see the difference. And the differences that I used to see on vehicles like this was around $800 in 3 years' time. If you go from a material change from a cloth to a leather, the perception of luxury, the difference in perception is vast. So we have to add a big value change to that because that can sway a buyer one way or the other, and I totally get the argument of having softer cloth seats, but there are also very soft leather seats depending on the type of product that you buy. So that's why it's $800. Rear adjustable headrests on the XLE. Come on, Toyota, just put those on every single vehicle as standard. They're valued as $0. That should just be on every single vehicle. Leather trimmed tilt telescopic steering wheel and paddle shifters on the SE. This leans into the sportiness of the SE. You lose that on the XLE. You're not going to get any value difference for that. That's not going to change someone's buying decision necessarily that you do or don't have a paddle shifter on this specific vehicle. And if we're talking about McLarens and Ferraris and Audi R8s, clearly, they want paddles rather than anything else. But in this case, it's a Camry. We add it as a $0 value. Next one. We're going from a 7-inch digital gauge cluster with selectable gauge displays to a 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster with selectable gauge displays, etc., etc. Yeah, of course, it's going to be a value difference for that. When you see that in your vehicle, you see a nice 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster versus a 7-inch one, and that is going to be a $400 difference as I perceive the value to be. Now, again, this leans into lighting technology and other things like that, but we're looking at screen technology now. So is 12.3 going to be the standard on the next version of this? Is it going to be 12.5? Is it going to be an OLED screen? Or is it going to be an LED screen? Or is it going to be some other type of screen? Are all the buttons going to be in the screen? Or are they going to remove those? All this functionality we have to take into account, and we obviously get these in side by side, and that's what Toyota would do in my old role. They would bring both vehicles down side by side. They would have a product manager there for that specific vehicle. They would talk around the differences. You'd sit in it, you touch it, you feel it, you write down your notes, you go back, you value it like we do here. So that's why I've added a value of $400. I would need to see them side by side. Next up, rearview mirror with manual day-night mode. Going on to one that has home link and is auto dimming. Yep, perceived value benefit there of convenience of having the home link universal transceiver in there, $135. You go from aluminum sport pedals to no aluminum sport pedals on the XLE. If Toyota are watching this, which I highly doubt that they are, you should never do this. You should never take off spec on a vehicle, generally speaking, when it's something like this. So I've done minus $50 because you should really just carry that up the trim or start it on the very base trim and work it forward. Don't take things off, otherwise you get punished with your RV or your residual value. White LED ambient light, interior lighting, no additional value for that. I haven't put any value on it, but it's going to be a 0. Okay, don't worry about that bit at the bottom where it says AP, it just means already priced when I was looking at the rest of the spec. So, the SE to XLE is going to cost you $2,700. The spec within the XLE is worth, everything we've just added up there, even including the minus $50 at the end, is worth $1,810, which means over 3 years, I think you're going to lose $890. Let's just call it $900. That's really good. So my recommendation is that you actually don't get the SE, you spend the extra money, and you'll probably see that if you did a lease agreement, you'd probably see the difference will be pretty marginal because of the higher RV. But I think you should jump up to the XLE. That's my personal opinion, it's my personal advice, and I hope this helped you. You understood it. If you've got any questions, please jump into the comments below. If you feel like I've got something wrong, you want to discuss it, jump into the comments below. Happy to help anybody that needs it. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.